Good evening and welcome to the Wednesday, June 24th, 2026 Penfield Town Board Work Session. I will now call the meeting to order. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Madam Clerk, will you please call the roll?
Yes. Barry?
Here.
Dean?
Here.
Getz?
Here.
Lang?
Here.
Teglash?
Here.
All right, if folks have had an opportunity to review the minutes from the May 27th meeting, could I get a motion to approve?
Moved. Second.
Who would you like me to select as second?
John. Councilmember Getz.
Okay, thank you. And there were also special ledge meeting, just so you know. Barry?
Aye.
Dean?
Aye.
Getz?
Aye.
Lang?
Aye.
Teglash?
Aye.
All aye.
Thank you. All right, I'm going to announce that there is going to be a bit of new business tonight. It will be Resolution 26T-121 regarding temporary no parking signs. So with that, we will now move on to our guests, and I would like to welcome Mr. Barry Howard from the East Area Annex to speak to us this evening.
Thank you. My name is Barry Howard. I am the liaison from the Eastside Area Annex Incorporated, which is a not-for-profit organization that's had a relationship for about 35 years with the town of Penfield. We were incorporated early in 1977 as a loosely organized group of people with a single purpose, which was to provide a safe haven for 12-step groups to meet. And we've been doing that ever since. In June of 1991, after being located in different locations within the town and elsewhere, we came to an agreement with the town of Webster to use a small single-family residence that had been purchased by the town, known as the Yellow House. It was at 1601 Jackson Road, and we used that facility for a number of years. It affectionately became known as the Yellow House because we painted it Kodak yellow so that it could be seen easily from the street, so to speak. So the annex continued to use the Yellow House until early 2012, when the town determined that the building repairs needed at the Yellow House were far more expensive than the value of the building, and so they decided that that building was going to get demolished. And at that time, very generously, the town offered us to use the portion of the Mack building that was mostly unoccupied at the time as an alternate to the Yellow House for our 12-step groups to meet, which was a much-needed relief because at that point in time we had grown pretty much out of the Yellow House. It was very small. You could only get about 40 or 50 people in there, and sometimes we had meetings in there with as many as 75 or 100 people. In 2012, July of 2012, after some significant leasehold improvements, including drywall, plumbing, kitchen cabinets totaling about $13,000 and another $4,000 paid to the town for their improvements, we moved into the Mack building in the 12-step group. The 12-step group started to meet there. In March of 2020, during the pandemic, when the building was closed, the Eastside Area Annex invested further in leasehold improvements for painting carpet to the tune of about $20,000. And by the end of June, the building was ready for us to meet again with limited attendance rules, and it was an immediate flood back. Despite the fact that people were able to meet on Zoom, it's not the same as having some peer evaluation and some peer support person to person in person. In January 2022, the town and the annex extended their agreement with a new lease agreement that expires on 12/31 of 2026, which is why I'm here tonight. So currently, the Mack building, via the annex lease with the town, hosts approximately 38 12-step meetings per week with an average of about 880 attendees per week, average of about 3,800 people per month that come from the town of Penfield and the surrounding community. So it's not an exaggeration to say that the relationship between the town and the annex has enabled thousands, possibly tens of thousands over the last 35 years, residents to find and sustain recovery. So we, as an example, primarily host Alcoholics Anonymous meetings. There are 41 meetings in Penfield for Alcoholics Anonymous. 38 of them take place in the Mack building. There are meetings literally every hour, almost every hour of the day. They start at 7:30, 9:30, noon, 3:30, 5:30, and then an evening meeting on 4 different nights of the week. So the usage that we have for the health and welfare of our community is huge. We obviously see a great benefit for this facility. We would love to be able to continue to use the facility. We know that there are some lease terms that we would like to look at. The agreement that we currently have was designed so that the Annex paid the cost of the utilities in the facility, and that the town allowed us to continue to do that. We'd like that to extend at least another 5 years so that we can work on our mission, to continue our mission. If there's a decision that's made, and I'm crossing my fingers and toes, that our relationship of 35 years will be able to continue. If it doesn't, we would just ask that we get as much notice as possible, because it will literally devastate the east side of Rochester when it comes to 12-step meetings. To try and relocate 38 meetings in the week to other facilities that are able to handle it, church basements or fire-exempt buildings and those kinds of things, it's going to be a huge task. So we think that the use of the building, the Mack building, we think and I, as a Penfield resident, think that it's an excellent use of the facility, and I would like the town to renew that lease. We have established new relationships since the beginning of this year. We have some changes with your door lock system and the security system and the facilities people, and for a long time we dealt with one person. Now we're dealing with 3, and that's fine. We don't have any problem with it, and I think that if you check with those people that are on town staff, they'll tell you that we're very cooperative. We want to do everything that's beneficial for the town and for the members that meet at the Mack building. So I hope I gave you enough information so that you can understand what we're doing, but I'd be more than happy to answer any questions.
Looks like you're going to get off easy tonight.
Gee, I was all ready for questions, too. My goodness. Well, if in the future you have my contact information, if there's anything more, or I believe that you indicated to me when you and I met that you're looking at facilities across the board in the town of Penfield. And so if it comes to that, if you need further information from us about our utilization, we would be more than happy to provide that.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right, next we will go to a Shadow Pines Trail update with Mr. Andy Erkfitz.
All right, thank you. Town staff from the Recreation, Parks, Engineering, and Developmental Services departments have been working with Costich Engineering this spring to gather data in order to create construction designs for the shared use trail system at Shadow Pines. Emma Oakes from Costich Engineering is here tonight to provide a brief overview and an update regarding the project's progress. So I will turn it over to Emma.
Thanks, Andrew. So as Andrew said, my name's Emma Oakes. I'm a landscape architect with Costich Engineering here in Rochester, and we're thrilled to be working with the town on the Shadow Pines South Side Shared Use Trails project. We went under contract with the town about April of this year, and ever since we've been making steady progress on the plans and on the project. We've been meeting on roughly a monthly basis with the town, and our goal is to have the final construction documents prepared and completed by the fall. So I'm going to give you an update on what we've completed so far, what we're working on now, and what's next. So since April, we've completed a number of site visits out to the project site, which included geotechnical investigations, watercourse and wetland delineations, vegetation investigations. We did a site walk with the whole project team, which included Costich, the town, and our sub-consultants. And we've completed we've completed a land survey of specific areas of the property where we're proposing to build a parking lot and potentially construct possible stream crossings. We've taken all of those findings from our site investigations and we've compiled them into a basis of design report, which we just issued to the town today. So this basis of design report essentially bridges the gap between the concept plan that was prepared last year and the construction drawings that we're working on now. We've prepared an overall base map and site plan, basically taking the concept plan trail alignments out of a GIS software and bringing them into our CAD design software, making it essentially a real constructible project now. And we are actively working now in the CAD drawing on our 50% construction document set. What you're seeing on the screen right here is an overall view of what the phase 1 portion of the project would look like. And then this is phase 2, yep. So in the kind of the upper right-hand corner, near the Dolomite property along Whalen Road, you'll see kind of a small parking area. We got some feedback today from the town on the orientation of that. We're going to kind of flip that 90 degrees. We reviewed today with the town the trail alignments, trail materiality, trail widths, and had a lot of our questions answered, so we can proceed with finalizing the 50% design set. Along with finalizing the 50% design set, we're going to be issuing a 50% cost estimate to go along with it, preparation of a draft SWIP report, and then we're going to take all those documents and we're going to start coordinating with agencies on approvals and permitting required for the project. So the target timeline for delivering those 50% documents is mid-July, and we believe we're on target to hit that deadline. Once we start coordinating with agencies and their reviews and permitting, we should have a clearer idea of any potential impacts to the overall timeline of the project. But as of right now, we feel strongly that we're going to hit the delivery of the fall date for the final construction documents. Any questions?
So as you've been going through this, have you found or determined that there's anything that you had to readjust, that you had to change because it was not expected, or there's something there that, giving further knowledge, it's like, okay, we have to redo this?
Nothing that was overly surprising. I think one of the things that we found during the wetland and watercourse delineation were two small wetland areas in the northwest portion of the property. So we have diverted the trail kind of around those wetland areas to avoid
Northwest portion of the south.
Of the south,
Okay,
yes.
okay.
Yep, talking about the project area
Right.
as the south side, yep. So we have, made some very small tweaks to the alignment, if we're talking about areas of disturbance, we're talking about slopes, and just general kind of layout or feel of the trail itself as you kind of navigate it. But I think there was a lot of work done in the concept planning of this project, and so we're really trying to be respectful of what the town's already put into the project itself, working with the community and the other consultants. So we're not trying to totally change it unless we really have to. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's what I would expect. I was just curious as you went out there
Yeah.
and did so many site visits, was there anything new learned or determined?
No, I think every time I go out there, I find a new area that I love. It's just
Right.
such a beautiful property. I mean, you guys really have such a gem with this, the south side area. I'm really excited to see the trails come to fruition.
And would you refresh our memories as to, with these trails, what will they be comprised of? What is the plan?
Yeah, like the cross-section, what do they look like? Yeah, so we talked today about, they're going to be crushed stone, similar to what's happening in the north portion of the park. They're going to be anywhere between 10 and 8 feet wide with a 2 to 3 foot shoulder of lawn on either side. And that's really the kind of the gateway or 100 level segments of the trails. And then if you wanted to flip to the next map, Carrie.
Yep.
The 200 level segments, there's the parking lot below. 200 level segments will be more natural surface trails. And those are going to be 3 feet wide, but it's going to be mostly dirt or potentially mulch, depending on what the town has available. But those are going to be thinner courses for primarily kind of bike users or runners, that sort of a thing.
And I'm curious, why do we recommend changing the parking lot 90 degrees? I'm just curious.
No, I can answer it. So there's a 200-foot restrictive buffer
With the
from the Dolomite Quarry, yep. And, yeah, I didn't know that when I laid it out. So we said, well, why don't we just rotate it 90 degrees, and then we're out of the buffer, so.
Oh, nice.
Very good.
The design of the parking lot, too, kind of mimics what's happening in the north side as well. So we're trying to make sure that the experience that you're having on the south side is reflective of the park as a whole from the north and the south as well, so. Yep.
All right, thank you.
Welcome.
Very good, thank you.
Thank you for having me.
Exciting.
All right, next we'll move on to department head updates. And we'll start with Bob Moore from the Department of Public Works.
So sorry. We have RKG.
Oh, geez, I'm sorry.
No, no
Yeah.
worries.
Yep. Okay, yes, we have the physical impact analysis and housing market study from RKG. Yep.
Thank you to PCTV for making that happen so quickly.
Wizards.
You guys are on, Eric and Eric, you're on television and in our room, so certainly feel free to take it away.
Okay, sounds great. You okay?
Yep.
Fantastic. I'm just sending you a request to share screen.
Brian,
There it is.
the hand from behind.
Are you able to see that on your end now?
We are, thank you.
Great. Okay, awesome. Thanks so much. Hi, everyone. Nice to see all of you again virtually this time. Eric Halverson, Principal with RKG Associates, and joined by partner Eric Weishaar as well. Tonight, we just wanted to provide the town board members with an update on where we are, sort of getting ready to cross the finish line on the fiscal impact and housing market study. Tonight is really just to sort of talk with you a little bit about the strategic growth framework and the strategies that we have here in draft form, and just share those with you to see if you have any questions or comments before we wrap up the report. So just on the strategic framework for growth and development, Penfield it's really fortunate to have several locations already across town that are well served by both public infrastructure, things like water, sewer, power, transportation facilities. But we have seen continued eastward expansion to create new development opportunities, really enabled by zoning changes first and foremost, and then also the extension of public infrastructure. And when we talked last time, growth can be good, but we do know that it also comes at a cost to the town. And there are several development types that will generate positive fiscal returns for the town. But we know also that when we incorporate both the short and the long-term capital, as well as the ongoing maintenance costs of new infrastructure, spread across the ratepayers who are benefiting from that, this is sometimes where we see the real fiscal differences between outward expansion, or if we were to focus inward in sort of more of a redevelopment mode. So just in thinking through that, really we think to address Penfield's demand for new housing and also commercial space in a way that tries to ease the financial burden of new infrastructure, we had proposed the town really focus on a couple of strategic growth areas and potentially use a combination of incentives and zoning to encourage maybe more of a intensification of development in places where infrastructure really already exists. These areas include, but they certainly don't have to be limited to, the new mixed-use development district, of course, maybe some in the Four Corners area, the Panorama area that we talked about last time, and then sort of up in the northwestern corner around the sort of the Enterprise Boulevard corridor, which we also talked about last time. And in sort of following through with that thread, this map here then shows those strategic growth areas in relation to the current expanse of the town sewer system. Currently, Fairpoint, 9 Mile Point Road really serves as kind of that east-west boundary or dividing line between really the developed parts of Penfield and certainly the more rural parts of Penfield as you work your way to the east. And we thought to preserve the sort of agricultural and the rural landscape, things that people really enjoy about Penfield and love, we might recommend limited sewer and infrastructure expansion in the near term, and maybe try to focus more efforts on redeveloping either outmoded buildings or older buildings, vacant land that might be within the growth boundary and already served by infrastructure. And if the current growth boundary, as we're sort of defining it by the current sewer extents, needs to be increased at some point in the future, we thought it might be helpful if the town sort of had a decision-making framework in place to determine, if it's actually financially viable, number one, and maybe number two, if it matches with the town's land use and development goals, either established by the town board or certainly through the town's existing comprehensive plan and other plans throughout the town. And we thought that maybe this matrix could be a starting point for the town board as it's weighing future projects, whether those be capital expansions, ongoing maintenance, or maybe future development projects. So some of the categories you may want to consider at a high level would be the sort of fiscal impact and the impacts to the town's fiscal sustainability over time. Infrastructure efficiency, so how close or how proximate is an area to existing utilities? Is this really sort of an extension of an existing network, or are you thinking about putting something sort of further out to the east that may not be as well served or really served at all by today's infrastructure? Maybe you want to consider land use or resource protection, maybe the community impact. Can existing public services adequately serve with either the capacity you have or the distance you may have to travel? And then is there strategic alignment, as I mentioned before, is it consistent with the established community goals and visions of other planning documents that have come before this one? So as a framework, that was sort of our thinking and how we might frame, how the town could potentially carry forward some of the actual strategies in the document, or sort of a way of thinking about them. And so in addition to that sort of growth framework proposition, we also have a couple of suggested strategies. So I thought we'd first just start with housing, since that was kind of the crux of our work with this project, at least in the beginning. So a couple of things we wanted to put in front of you tonight. First, we think that the town should review and revise zoning specific to each of those growth areas, and sort of decide how you might want to pursue any potential changes if those growth areas do indeed make sense. Some of those things that you may want to look at for zoning might include any changes to allowable uses, so either uses that are not allowed today that you might want to encourage in the future, or even potentially how the permitting process is administered for uses that you may want discretionary permitting over. You might also want to look at the dimensional requirements or maybe the parking requirements to see if there are any barriers to future development in those areas, or how you might use those to intensify development where existing infrastructure already exists. The next one would be, and I know that the mixed use zoning district is relatively new, but we were thinking it might be a good idea that the town sort of periodically review and potentially revise those regulations over time. So one step that this could include would be things like talking with developers who are active in the district, who have projects there, and just seeing, are they successful over time? Are the commercial spaces leasing up? If commercial spaces are difficult to lease up, the town may want to revisit the mixed use requirements and potentially adjust the commercial components that are required in some of the subzones over time. But really only if that is sort of a barrier to development, or it's proving that the commercial spaces are more challenging to lease up. The third strategy is around sort of housing diversification. So one thing we noted was the ability to add accessory dwelling units on a property. Right now you do have that, but one of the things we noticed is that in order to have an accessory dwelling unit, it has to be occupied by a family member. And what we found in other places is, that can be limiting, particularly for someone who might want to introduce an accessory dwelling unit as a way to have added income, maybe to help them with the housing affordability issue, or for other, cost reduction issues that they might have in their specific situation. Making the ADUs a bit easier to do, whether they're attached to a structure or detached, it can really help provide housing options for a pretty wide range of residents in Penfield. Certainly older adults or supporting multi-generational families on the same property, it's very helpful. It can be a good starting option or lower price point rental option for young adults. And as I mentioned, it could also bring in more rental income for homeowners. So the town over time may want to consider or take a look at removing that requirement for the family having to live in the unit, which could then make it easier or at least reduce some barriers for ADU construction. We also were looking at, we know housing affordability and the price points for both for sale and rental housing, as we noted in some of our earlier presentations, is becoming more challenging over time. One potential way the town could think about addressing that and introducing additional deed-restricted affordable units in Penfield could be through something like an incentive overlay zone, where the town would sort of trade with a developer, giving additional density or intensity of development in return for some percentage of those new units being deed-restricted for affordable housing. So you get some market rate housing to serve that segment of the market, but you also sort of trade density for affordability, serving that end of the market as well. And in the same vein of housing diversity, there's been a lot of talk in a lot of the projects that we've been working on around missing middle housing. This is kind of the traditional housing typologies that were built 50, 60, 70, 80 years ago, but have kind of been zoned out in a lot of our communities. This would be things like 3-family or 4-family or townhomes or small apartment buildings that might sort of serve as a transition between your traditional single-family neighborhoods, of which Penfield has many, and your existing mixed-use or commercial districts. These tend to need very specific zoning changes to sort of make both the economics of the development work, but also to be able to fit that housing typology into what is traditionally zoning for single family and zoning for much larger development. So it kind of needs something in the middle, hence the term missing middle. And then following the sort of framework around growth, we were thinking not only about how do you sort of develop in these strategic growth areas, but maybe equally as important, how do we ensure protection beyond the existing 2-acre agricultural zoning on the east side? How do we sort of ensure that there might be some protections in place long-term? So 2 things that we were thinking about, and the town currently has both of these, but it may be good to revisit if they're actually working. One is what's called transfer of development rights, which is essentially a transfer of the rights to develop in more rural areas, and you would transfer those development rights or those development credits to a more developed area in town. So you're sort of preserving the character, the more rural character of one town. In return, you're sort of giving an incentive to develop in a more intensive way in another part of town where development might make more sense for Penfield. That program, it really relies on a pricing model for those rights that is not too expensive when it's compared to the value of the increased density. So for example, if a developer wanted to work with a property owner in a rural area to purchase those development rights, they need to be able to purchase that at a price that's not too expensive, where the benefit that they're getting in the more developed area isn't wiped away by the amount that they have to pay for those development rights. So it's kind of a tricky trade-off and one that you want to pay close attention to. So we thought if that was a program you wanted to really invest in, it might be worth sort of looking at that pricing model. The other one is around cluster subdivisions. Again, the town has something in place already for clustering subdivisions where houses might be closer together on smaller lots. It saves on infrastructure, but then the nice thing is if it's a larger lot and the housing is clustered, you have the ability to sort of hopefully save a much higher percentage of open space, view sheds, maybe it's agricultural land, but you're sort of clustering that housing to make that happen. Sometimes what we find is in an already developed area where you might have vacant lots, or on the edge of a developed area where you'd like some protection of view sheds and open space, sometimes the regulations are not necessarily scaled to the size of the parcels that you're looking at. Often cluster subdivision regulations are for very large parcels, maybe 20 acres, 50 acres, 100 acres, where it makes sense to do that. But there are a lot of opportunities where you could build a small cottage court with 10 or 12 units, and you might do that on a 5-acre parcel. But a lot of times cluster subdivisions aren't necessarily written with that in mind. So that might be something the town wants to take a look at over time. And just the last two on the housing stuff. We also know that from our housing analysis and sort of the demographic analysis, Penfield's population is getting older, yet they're remaining in their homes for longer periods of time. That is partially a sort of cost of housing challenge, but also just people want to be independent for longer, and with modern medicine, you can do that. But in order to help people, particularly those who may be older or maybe having issues with mobility or might have longer term disabilities, it might require accessibility upgrades to their home over time to ensure that they are able to remain independent and do it in a safe manner. There's a couple of programs that are out there that the town may want to consider. They would be sort of, they're often regional and state programs, so you could potentially apply for state level community development block grant federal funds to do this, or there's a program called Section 504. Both could be related to home repair or accessibility modification programs to sort of help folks make those repairs where it doesn't necessarily have to come out of their pocket directly. Could be a cost sharing program, could be a interest-free loan program, it could be a one-time grant program. It depends how the town would want to structure it. But that's something to maybe consider. And lastly, and kind of a little bit more generally, there are a lot of groups that we're aware of and some of which we've talked to in Penfield that are working actively on housing issues and solutions in addition to the town board and town staff. We thought it might be a good recommendation to consider bringing them together around the same table periodically. It could be once a quarter, it could be twice a year, it could be more frequently if that's appropriate. But really the idea here is creating synergies and partnerships that have broader benefits and also expand the capacity that the town might have just beyond what the town staff can do from a housing perspective. Certainly they can do a lot, but they can't do everything. They have other duties from day to day. So is there a way that a housing coalition could sort of collectively tackle Penfield's housing opportunities and challenges? And then just a couple of others. We have some more specific zoning recommendations, both on this slide, but are also built out in more detail in the report that we thought the town may want to consider. I'm not going to go into all the specifics just for the sake of time, but they do pertain to some of the concepts around ensuring that mixed use is viable in the long term, particularly, as I mentioned, with the commercial component. The idea of a housing overlay district with incentives for affordability would be included in the zoning, and the potential of looking at zoning changes at Four Corners and in the existing business non-retail districts in town. Those two things we had talked about during our fiscal analysis presentation as well. And with each zoning recommendation, the intention is really to add flexibility and potentially incorporate new uses that could then help to spur additional growth and also additional revenue for the town. And then just the last piece is on infrastructure and also the fiscal impacts. Just a couple of things we wanted to mention here. The first is actually really the first two are kind of interrelated. The first one is thinking about the evaluation of both the capital and the financial implications of roadway infrastructure by maybe investing in a pavement management system and a road replacement system. So by understanding the current conditions of your pavement and maybe a road replacement plan, a longer term road replacement plan, this could help the town anticipate future costs of existing roadways and also just weighing the capital costs of expansion. As I mentioned, with new greenfield development often comes new infrastructure, and that does come at a cost to the town. It may not be immediate, but certainly over the long term. The town may also want to conduct a similar system-wide study for things like stormwater and sanitary sewer systems, really to understand the current maintenance and capital needs, and also, again, the costs of expansion in the future. The last thing I wanted to mention was just continuing to do the work that you're doing, working closely with Rochester Gas and Electric, mostly to be an advocate for reliable power systems, both within the growth areas, ensuring power can be adequately supplied, but also, and we've heard this through some of the developer interviews, to any of those new expansion areas. Those could be areas that were already approved, like the mixed-use district, or over time, if you start to expand on that, you want to just make sure that the power's in place and the development can happen, because those things definitely need to go hand in hand. So with that, I think that's the end, and happy to take any questions that anyone might have.
No questions?
Regarding the creating a housing coalition, you mentioned that there are groups that are already in Penfield. Do we know? I don't need to know tonight, but our staff has a good idea of those groups.
Yeah, there are a couple of organizations that's not, housing isn't their focus, but it's an area of interest or concern.
Okay.
And so when we were going through the process during the focus group sessions, a couple of those organizations reached out and said, can we be included and can we participate? And so that's where I connected them with RKG so they could be part of the focus group interaction. I'm aware of at least 2.
Okay.
There may be more.
No more questions?
And so give me another layout of what our next steps are. Your next steps are.
Eric, I think that might be.
So our next steps.
Go ahead, I'm sorry. Oh,
Carrie, did you want me to go?
yes, please.
Okay, perfect, sorry. Just in terms of RKG for our next steps are just taking any comments tonight, incorporating those into the draft report and getting the draft report out to staff where you're shooting for some time next week.
Okay. And can we get a copy of what was shared tonight?
We certainly can. This, tonight's presentation we'll have posted onto the project community page.
Wait,
We'll
okay.
share that here. When RKG provides the draft plan, we'll circulate that to the town board. We'll also post it in draft form onto the project page as well. This way the community has an opportunity to read it sort of from beginning to end.
Okay,
We'll have an opportunity to continue discussion and perhaps put out a call for comments, feedback.
Okay, good. I will admit that I don't absorb as quickly as other people do when you present, so I don't have a lot of questions. I appreciate what you're doing, but I would like to read it, comprehend it, and then plan for it.
Yeah, I think I agree 100% that it's a lot of information. We haven't really had the opportunity to really digest it, so any questions I think would not be worthwhile at this point.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
Just one last question. Gentlemen, with the last statement for kind of I'll call it the advanced planning part for the fiscal, do you typically have a 5-year, 10-year, 50, how far in advance are we looking at for infrastructure planning, if you follow my question? You discussed the idea of having, for example, road replacement plan. Is there a specific timeframes that you're typically recommending, RKG is typically recommending, or is it up to the towns to look at that, or how does that usually work?
Yeah, my experience typically it's been a conversation between, say, the town engineer, DPW folks, and usually those studies are done by outside, private engineering firms that come in to help the town sort of look at their pavement management or look at the pavement conditions along the roads and potential replacements. So I think that would really be up to the town. If you all do any like CIP planning or have a CIP, that also may be something you want to think about is like, what's the length of that CIP process? Is it a 5-year? Is it a 10-year? And then how do you align that with some of the other studies like pavement management or infrastructure?
Thank you.
Any other questions? Thank you very much, gentlemen. That was very informative.
Thanks.
Thanks. All right.
Thank you.
Have a good evening. All right, so now we will go on to department head updates, and we'll start with the Department of Public Works with Bob Moore.
evening, everybody.
Good evening.
So we started this month out pretty fast. We've started the Plank Road project resurface for Monroe County DOT. We'll be paving that Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday of next week. Then we'll be starting our project for Scribner Road and the prep for that, which will be starting towards the end of July with completion in mid-August before school starts. We did complete the first round of roadside mowing, and we're on our second. With all the rain that we've had, it is growing like crazy, so be patient, we will be there. The parks and facilities guys have been working diligently on the 4th of July, getting everything ready for the big party this weekend. And of course, with Little League is every day that is taking priority as well. The sewer boys have been, we've been doing a lot of work on Extension 19. That's the main pump station in town that carries 50% of the town's sewer. That's 18 years old. We had a motor fail last year with a control panel. We've been looking into them and found out that, like I said, they're all the same age, and they've reached their life expectancy, so we are updating that. Hopefully, the next couple weeks we'll have that done, so we're not going to have any issues in that pump station. Moving on to the DPW, we got our above-ground fuel tanks delivered today, and they're sitting there nice, looking pretty nice. The fuel system will be transferred over at the end of next week to the new tanks. The system will be down for about a month while they take out the old tanks, and hopefully we have no issues with that, and build our new fuel island with the canopy and all that. So that's the main start of phase 2 after the building got demoed. We've been working on a bunch of the budget items. Looking after this presentation kind of fell right in there, of road projects that we have that we've isolated that need to be done. We've added some of those into the budget, so we'll see how that works out. We're doing the wind damage cleanup from last week's storm. That'll probably take the rest of this week and probably beginning of next. As I said, we're paving Plank Road Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. Staff openings, we have the part-time clerk at the shop. We're conducting interviews next week, so hopefully we can have someone chose by end of the week. We still have our highway labor position open, and we've put out the senior MEO promotion internally for the highway group. Their applications are due by Friday, so hopefully by end of next week or so we can make a decision on that. And that's us in a nutshell.
Not a question, but kudos and huge thanks to the staff for Thursday's storm-related response. Luckily, it happened during the day, so I'm sure that you had a good selection of manpower. But being in the thick of it in another town that I work for full-time, I was listening to the fire band, police band. I know you guys were busy. Anecdotally, my mother says thank you for the response to her tree that came down at her house. Just the feedback from the fire departments in town, the feedback from the residents I've heard is the response was efficient, it was quick. They were happy to see the red trucks come, so great job by everybody.
Yeah, that was a lot in a lot of areas. They were hitting a bunch, and they did a great job. They worked their tail off.
Yeah, I don't have the numbers yet, but I know we were probably close to the 2018 windstorm in terms of the number of calls for service in Irondequoit, so I imagine Penfield was probably pretty similar.
Yep.
And I'd second that. And to Bill's point, you folk, the team did great because Sunday was a pretty busy day, the Sunday before the storm on Thursday, so it was amazing work done on Atlantic and 5 Mile. That area was, I know, hit hard too.
Yep.
So.
Yep.
One thing I wanted to point out about the Scribner Road project is that we are partnering with the school district to put an extra wide shoulder on the road to get the cars that are lined up to pick up and drop off children off the road as a safety measure, and the school is paying for that.
Correct, yeah, they're paying for the materials, we're supplying the labor to make that happen, so it's a little safer through that section down there.
Popular spot.
Great.
Very good, thank
All
you.
right, thanks, Bob.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, next let's go to Amaret Miller from Human Resources.
Hello.
Hello.
Town Board, Supervisor, Deputy Clerk, and fellow department heads, hello. Okay, so active vacancies, we're hiring some crossing guards for the first time, and probably the first time for September. We, as Bob mentioned, we do have a highway laborer vacancy. We're interviewing for part-time DPW clerk. We have a clerk opening in the IT department. And that particular department, we will be bolstering with staff after this particular hire, as they are very busy. We have some promotions, and just like to mention that I've seen and I've promoted through DPW at least 10 employees, and it's nice to see an organization that cares about career ladder, and we do have an aggressive career ladder offering, so that's good to see. We found a night facilities laborer and another sewer laborer, and you'll see that go to resolution at your next meeting. Summer hiring is winding down, and of course, kudos to Joel and Andy for keeping things moving along. CSCA negotiations will commence finally end of July, and hopefully that will wrap up in the early months of this last of this year. Handbook updates are forthcoming for your consideration. I have an open door policy. Every employee is important, so any employee can come and sit with me and talk about issues that they might have with their coworkers or with supervisor, or whatever it might be, just to talk things out, and that's been going really well. DPW will be experiencing a live workplace violence training on August 5th. I think that might be it.
Any questions for Amaret?
Yeah. Where are the crossing guards going to be?
They'll be at select schools. Kevin, would you like to?
Oh,
Yeah, basically what we're going to do is we're going to base it on how many we get. Hopefully, we would get enough to be able to put one at every school.
okay.
But the priority schools are going to be the high school, particularly the Gebhardt Road
Yep.
crossing, and Scribner.
Yep. I know the Scribner one has been an area, well, both have been an area of concern for quite a while.
Which department are they going to fall under if they come on board?
Probably under security.
Public safety? Okay.
Yes. Thank you, Supervisor.
Okay.
Any other questions?
Are you getting, for those openings, are you getting a good selection of resources, or?
Not yet.
Okay.
I'll be posting them on Indeed next
Okay.
to see what we get, and we'll gauge if we have to go
Do-
pivot or do something different.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, let's go to Andy from Recreation.
All right, thank you. So a bunch of events, concerts, programs coming up. So just to name a few, we have the Independence Day Parade and fireworks event scheduled for this Saturday, June 27th. I'm not going to talk about our scheduled rain date for Sunday, June 28th, and jinx us or anything like that. We have the Penfield 250 events and programs that are happening all the way starting the 27th, running up to the 4th of July. The information is posted on the website. We pretty much have daily programs, events taking place, all different departments. To highlight a few, we have a Penfield Trails Committee history hike at Channing Filbert Park on Monday. We have Penfield Public Library's programs pretty much happening 1 to 2 of them every day. We have the Penfield Pops Community Band Concert on Tuesday night starting at 6:30. We have pavilion dedications at Veterans Memorial Park for Bremen Post and Harris Whalen for Penfield Parent and Kiwanis. The Harris Whalen Pavilion will be Wednesday with an ice cream social at 12 p.m. And the Veterans Memorial Bremen Post dedication will be a part of our outdoor movie, which is going to be The Sandlot, which we're partnering with Penfield Little League. That'll be on Thursday evening, starting at 8 o'clock. People can show up. We did find out that it's super late when we tested our equipment, so I would say the movie time is more going to start around 9 o'clock, just to ensure that people can see the screen. As someone who wants to see every second of The Sandlot, I want to make sure that the screen is there and people are watching, but just really cool to partner with Penfield Little League on that one as well. I mentioned our Penfield Pop Summer Concert, but our Summer Concert series continue every Tuesday night from June to August at the amphitheater. All concerts begin at 6:30 p.m. Schedules online as well. For summer programming, our summer day camp and summer swim lessons all start on Monday, June 29th. Our deer programs, which primarily happen at the community center, we shift them over to the Dolomite Lodge starting in the summer, basically for facility space, just a lot of programming with summer day camp, so making sure that our deer programs are quiet, lectures, presentations, things like that. Being able to utilize the Dolomite Lodge Monday through Thursday for 7 weeks has really worked well the last couple of years. And then we have a bunch of other summer programs, all different categories, activity types, ages, things like that. So check out our brochure. You can still register online and do all of that stuff. For projects updates, Emma did a wonderful job giving an update on the Shadow Pines Southside Shared Use Trails project. For staff openings, as Amarette said, we're, knock on wood, good for staff, minus any part-time changes that always arise. We're always accepting applications for aquatic staff because that is year-round. But if you have any questions, people can reach out to the rec department anytime. And that's all I've got.
Okay. That's good.
Questions for Andy? Thank you,
Great
sir.
job. Thank you. Very good.
Okay, next let's go to Alan Wrights from Building, Zoning, and Fire Marshal.
Good evening.
Hi.
All right, so from my last report, since my last report, I should say, we received 172 permits, have completed 292 permits, or inspections, apologies, and have received 43 code enforcement cases. So we've been rather busy. The fire marshal's office has also been rather busy with 34 fire safety inspections, and we've responded to 3 calls of service from fire districts. One in particular is one that just happened last night, right before we left to go home. Fire marshal had to respond to 1237 Bay Road. It was an apartment complex, and one apartment wasn't fully involved, but it was going pretty good. Fire crews did a great job, put a good stop to it, and contained the fire to the one apartment. There was some smoke damage, so there was a few people displaced that were adjacent apartments, but all in all, everything went pretty well. So, and then just a update on our GovWell software application. We're doing really well with it. We have put in approximately 11 new permits into the system, and they have gone very well. And we've actually received 5 already that have been submitted via the portal. And it seems to be going pretty well. There are a few kinks, but we're working those out with GovWell. So, project updates. The only one that I really was going to update is our 2151 Fairport Mile Line, 9 Mile Line Road, which is our Chick-fil-A. All the footings have been completed, and I drove by today, and right as they were getting a delivery of framing, so you'll be starting to see some framing go up over there. Other than that, we don't have any staff openings, and it seems our budget seems to be going pretty good so far, so.
Any questions for Alan?
No?
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, next let's go to Sarah Reynolds from Finance.
Good evening. We're going to take these off. Okay. Our insurance renewed on June 1st and is good through June 1st of 2027. In May, we spent the better part of a day with a representative from Travelers. The representative toured our facilities, including Town Hall, the Penfield Community Center, the new Department of Public Works facility, and the sewer building. The representative also met with Supervisor Barry, HR Director Miller, Pete Weishaar, our town attorney, library, recreation, and highway leadership, and myself, to acquire an understanding of our operations and any risk of exposure. The good news was that they did not have much in the way of recommendations, and they offered us a very competitive quote. So we are able to realize substantial savings on insurance in this year and the next. By the end of this week, I hope to have all funds moved out of the money market account that we hold with our lead bank and reinvested in New York Class. The rate with New York Class is about 150 basis points greater than the money market rate that we receive through our lead bank. It was primarily used as a pass-through. We are now able to transact directly from New York Class, so a pass-through is no longer necessary. Funds can remain in New York Class longer, earning a better rate, and reconciliation of investment funds will be less complicated. As I mentioned last month, I've reviewed a proposal from Metropolitan Commercial Bank. MCB's Deposit Reserve Program is a liquid, high-yield money market account. It is OSC approved and FDIC insured up to $60 million. There are no fees. The current annual percentage yield is 3.56%, compared to New York Class, which has been approximately 3.51 to 3.52. It varies day to day. I have 6 months worth of daily rates that demonstrate a consistently small increase in basis points over New York Class. So I would like to move reserved funds over to, just the reserve funds, over to MCB to provide a little extra income and some diversification, reduce concentration risk, which auditors are always very happy about. So I will forward that information onto the board for review, and then I will submit a resolution on July 1st to open the account and move reserve funds if there are no objections. And we have no openings in finance currently. And that is all I have as far as a department head update.
Any questions for Sarah? All right, thank you. Next, we will move on to Mark from Planning and Engineering.
Thank you, Mr. Supervisor. So as with the windstorms, we had some rain. So staff, we've been chasing some drainage concerns around the community, so following up with them. We've also been busy with construction site inspections. So we're in full swing for the summer. We've got to keep up with our stormwater compliance, make sure we're inspecting all our construction sites once a month, looking at erosion control for those to make sure we stay in compliance on our end. We also get emails from the engineering consultants that send in their own evaluations as well. We did our Willow Pond dam inspection, so completed that, provided that for the insurance companies. They have that document. We've got some further evaluation to be done since it's the 10-year anniversary of our last physical updates to the dam and when we downgraded it to the current condition. So that engineering assessment will be coming forth by the next few months. We'll provide that to the board for your consideration as well. We've got some maintenance stuff we're working with DPW on to get cleaned up, but overall we're in good shape. Sidewalks, if the board's been out and about, Plank Road has been very busy with sidewalks, so we're working on wrapping that up. Kudos to Mike O'Connor. He's been working closely with Scheidt as well as the homeowners along there. We're through Scheitz's property, It's their quiet time of year, but you wouldn't believe it. Between shooting a TV show and all the other activities they have going on, trying to get across their property was a little challenging and timing, but worked getting that in, and they're completing that piece. We've got the easement needed for the Nature Conservancy property on Jackson. Got some logs to be removed, but we'll get that piece completed as well. So we'll be wrapping up our 2026 sidewalks, and we'll be talking about 2027 later in the agenda. Our climate action plan continues to move forward. So that's been working on the greenhouse gas inventory, so looking at all of our facilities, working with DPW, looking at all of our vehicles, going back. Sarah Waterman's been going through all of our Gini records for the past number of years, looking at all of the different meters we have across the community of what our usage is, and that kind of sets the baseline as we move forward, looking at greenhouse gas reductions. And then the active transportation plan. I don't believe we had any comments recently on that, so they'll be wrapping up that document and presenting it shortly for the board to hopefully accept that document as complete. So that'll be something forthcoming in July for the board to take a look at and consider.
All right.
I think that's what I had to share. I think we've got a couple other items on the facility update and other stuff later on, so I'll hold those for future.
Okay. Any questions for Mark? Thanks, Mark. We'll move on to Carrie from Development.
Thank you very much. If you drive down Empire Boulevard, you will see a building in the form of a comfort station coming out of the ground at our property at LaSalle's Landing Park. So block is going up. Our first on-site progress meeting will be taking place tomorrow, actually. So we're looking forward to seeing the progress up front and personal. That project's moving along very nicely on time. We're at the point where facilities and ourselves are having to make final decisions or confirmation on materials for bathroom stalls and flooring colors. So it's the fun part of the project. The Clark House Lodge Alpheus Clark House and Lodge facility is, although we had the ribbon cutting and it was a wonderful event, there are still the final details and punch list items that are being addressed. And so the project construction manager is working with all the contractors that are involved in getting those final items addressed. And so we're looking forward to getting the building open to the public as quickly as we can. So we appreciate everyone's patience. Now that we had a little bit of a sneak peek, people are excited. The other thing I wanted to update, I think I had mentioned in previous update to the town board, but the town did receive grant funding through New York State Department of State for an update to our LWRP, that's Local Waterfront Revitalization Program document. In our case, it's really a matter of updating the policy framework from our 2015 adopted plan or adopted program to bring it into conformance with the current 44 policy. And so one of the things that we had a meeting with the funding agency representative to sort of walk through that process. I'll share that update now. We're working through the details of the language that gets signed between the Department of State and the town, so that's going to require town attorney approval, so we'll bring that to you at an upcoming work session. Just want to give you that heads up. And I'm with Mark on the Penfield Forward conversation, so I'll save that for that part in the agenda.
Right. Any questions for Carrie?
Oh, I'm sorry, can I mention one other thing?
Yep.
So as part of the preparation for the Independence Day Parade, postcards were sent out by our Director of Communication to all properties that are on the parade route. For the last several years, I've sent a letter to the businesses on the parade route this year with some input from Sabrina Runner and David Runner of some properties that are or businesses that are not directly on the route but could be impacted by the closure. We expanded the footprint of the letter. And then today, because sometimes the letter only goes to the property address or the property owner's address, tenants may not always know. And so I walked the letter door to door today, and it was a nice opportunity to interact with the businesses, both the owners and or the employees. And many people got the letter and were happy to get one, and we're very much looking forward to the parade. So, so it was a good opportunity.
Nice, very nice.
Any questions for Carrie? All right, I want to thank all the department heads for their updates, and you are more than welcome to stay, but you've had a long day, so if you want to go home, feel free to do so, and thank you. All right, so next, we will go on to action items, the first being a resolution to approve modifications to the 2026 fee schedule.
So sorry.
That's okay.
All right, it's the resolution 26T-120 approving revisions to the Town of Penfield 2026 fee schedule.
With regards to Resolution 26T-120, approving the revisions to the Town of Penfield's 2026 fee schedule with two what I will call typographical / column amendments to Exhibit A, I would move as written. Specifically with regards to Exhibit A, under the Town of Penfield fee structures, it was inadvertently placed at the Alpheus Clerk House and Lodge for Tier 1, which is town and school, would be $1,575. That will be amended to no charge, just as you will see with that column. Every other one is no charge. And then with regards to the bottom, it should say 2026 Town of Penfield fee structures, hourly fee, not 2024. So with those amendments, I'd move as written.
I'll second.
Any discussion?
Barry?
Aye.
Dean?
Aye.
Getz?
Aye.
Lang?
Aye.
Teglash?
Aye.
All aye.
Thank you. So now we'll move on to some information regarding Penfield Forward, tomorrow's town spaces.
Yeah, so as a follow-up to last week's presentation that was provided by Grace DeSantis from Barton and LaJudas, certainly wanted to follow up to see if the town board members, if any of you had questions or comments that you wanted to discuss or share at tonight's meeting. Also wanted to let you know that the team is working toward has identified a date for a subsequent public outreach meeting to be held at the community center on Wednesday. I'm saying the wrong Tuesday, thank you, July 7th. The intent of that meeting is to really follow up, share with the public what was heard and gathered during that first phase, and start to move into the direction of seeking input on some specific ideas about amenities, and follow up on some of the questions that came through that public engagement process, specifically around the types of improvements that the town members would support, what residents, taxpayers, property owners, and other stakeholders would be willing or able to support fiscally, and so that's really the next step. There'll be some visual survey types of engagement as well to get some sense of the types of amenities that the town is really interested in seeing.
And how will we share that with the residents, the July 7th date?
That's going to be posted on the town's website. We'll have flyers that are going to be posted in all of the town facilities. We post them here at Town Hall, throughout the community center building, multiple locations. We even put them up at DPW, any town facility really.
Based on when our next newsletter goes out, will that coincide with able to include it in our newsletter? I don't know when the next one will go out.
End of June, typically, it goes out end of June.
End of the month, right?
End of the month or beginning of the month. Our communications director is currently out of the office, but
okay.
For a very happy occasion.
Yes, yes.
But we'll share it as widely as we can, and then certainly we'll have an email blast that we share with the department heads And then those department heads that have user groups or email lists can certainly circulate it out to their target audience. So for example, the library can share it with any email blasts or group that they have, and certainly Recreation Department has the same. And they have a pretty big list.
Robust list of.
Robust was a good word, yes. Yes.
Well, and perhaps even sharing it maybe through recreation with our youth rec leagues, Little
Yes.
League, all those groups that
Absolutely.
will be of interest to them as well.
Yes.
And that's Wednesday, July 7th at what time?
Sorry, Tuesday, July 7th, 5:30 to 7 p.m. And it will be at the community center in the community room. And located there because that's the best chance for a lot of walk-in, a lot more visibility there.
Yeah, agreed. Good.
Any other questions? All right, so now we will move on to an update regarding the Monroe County ARPA funding.
Okay, thank you. I've been working with department heads and foremen from Parks, Recreation, Facilities, and Community Development to exhaust the Monroe County Youth and Senior Congregate ARPA funding. We have a balance of $145,000 that we need to spend. I'll be submitting a resolution for the July 1st legislative meeting to approve appropriations which are fully reimbursable. Those appropriations include an estimate of $121,000 to install new playground equipment at Harris Wayland Park. The remaining $23,000 will reimburse for commercial kitchen equipment, specifically a freezer and oven, purchased for the senior meal program, and soccer equipment for youth recreation programming.
All right.
So this is a bit of change of the ARPA that we had gone through.
Yeah.
And the
Correct.
different,
So what had happened with that was we had allocated funds toward the Channing Philbrick project, the bridge, and these funds were meant for seniors and youth.
Right.
And the county felt that that did not qualify, and we argued the point and lost.
Okay.
So that's where this came.
Correct. Correct.
Other questions? All right. Thank you. All right, and now we're going to stay with Sarah, and she is going to give us a brief budget process overview.
Oh, look at that. It is right afterwards. Okay, I got to take this off. That's a lot of reading. The 2027 town budget process is well underway. Supervisor Barry and I met with all department heads, and I've received their budget requests, as well as their priorities and goals for 2027. For capital asset expenditures such as equipment, department heads obtain estimates. Note that these estimates generally tend to reflect current inflationary pricing. Department budgets have been compiled into a master workbook, to which I add employee salaries, benefits, commercial insurance expense, debt service, and non-property tax revenues. Right now, I'm in the process of adding estimates for the salaries and employee benefits. This is the most complicated part of the budget, for me anyways, in any year, because it is something of a moving target. This year, I want to be especially careful to capture everyone, as we have filled vacant positions and we've experienced some turnover due to retirements and other natural means of attrition. I got an early start on the salaries and benefits, so I think we're in good shape. But I'll be meeting with HR more than once over the next few months to confirm any changes. What I do not have, and that's not unusual, is the estimated increase in medical and dental. Like the commercial insurance, we may not receive those estimates until after the budget is adopted. In the interim, I put a placeholder of 15% as an increase for these insurances. This has been a reasonably good strategy. It's not perfect, but it's reasonably good, and it balances our need to keep budgeted numbers realistic with the reality of rising premiums. As previously mentioned, I have commercial insurance costs for the first 5 months of 2027. I'll add a 10% increase to the budget as a placeholder for the remaining 7 months. I have amortization schedules for debt service payments of principal and interest. 2 of those lines of credit have been fully paid this year, woohoo, and will fall off for the 2027 budget. I'm asked that question every year. And then finally, regarding non-property tax revenues, historically, we have budgeted revenues conservatively. Given inflation, I've nudged some of those numbers up just a little bit towards realistic. Sort of like the bubble is not quite plumb, it's just a little shy of plumb, towards the conservative side. Other revenue numbers, however, have been trending downwards, and so I've adjusted those accordingly as well. What's next in the process is we will have a second round of budget meetings, which will afford the town board the opportunity to discuss priorities with department heads, weigh some of the granular details, and determine the best path forward. That's it. Do you have any questions?
All right, thank you. Okay, next we will move on to held items, and with Mark Valentine, we will be discussing 2027 sidewalks.
Thank you. Took the input the board provided at the work session just last week. Had the list of preferred sidewalk locations, so I kind of floated those to the top of the list, put that in the drop materials for the board. So that came total of, about 1.5 miles of sidewalk, and with infrastructure and stuff, was almost 1.5 million. So just looking at where budget numbers are and everything else, I think we need to maybe prioritize that list down from there. So I don't know if the board had a 1, 2, 3, and then obviously that feeds directly into where our budget is. So the first one, the Atlantic, the 2990 Atlantic to Saldo, that is the piece that the board received a petition for or from those residents in that area in that piece. The Atlantic to Baird is a continuation. That's got a higher cost to it. I've got 2 creek crossings, and one is a large crossing as you're going around the curve. There's a big box culvert that's the state's, so that's kind of increased the cost in that section on the curve. The Hatch Road piece was going north from the schools up Hatch Road to Jewelberry Drive. The Penfield was a small, infill piece down at the bottom, and then the Wayland Road is a longer section, runs the entire length of Wayland Road. So I don't know if the board has a preferred order list to them, and then obviously they could be 26 or 27 and then 28 and beyond, so we can kind of maybe handle those in chunks. And I also wanted to clarify, because in the active transportation draft, at least 1 or 2 of these was recommended to look at making it a wider double width piece. This cost does not include that. So obviously if we're looking at going in a 10-foot wide section, these are for 5-foot wide concrete sidewalks, so I just wanted to clarify that. Obviously that would double the cost if that was being considered. So I just wanted to, 1, share that information, and 2, ask for some additional input from the board.
Is there any input or questions at this point?
Oh, thank you for the map.
Good. Would you show me again the Wayland, the last one on the list? What are we looking at for the?
Oh, do you want to see the location?
That's the most expensive one, right?
Yes, that's running from Atlantic. That's this whole piece down here.
Basically the Shadow Pines
That's the
connection.
whole frontage of the way.
Okay.
Yeah, so from Atlantic down to Clerk, all the way, and there's a small piece that exists already by the Shepherd home, but to do a path all the way down to 5 miles. That's a long stretch, a good section to fill in. It was one of the spots in the active transportation plan as a recommendation. And then Carrie's got the other piece up here is kind of this section here is the first one. That's the a portion of it's in Windsor Ridge to the Seldo Lane, and then the next piece is the curve up there, and then that's got two stream crossings. That's increasing the cost just with structures. There's one in the other section, and then the other piece is the hatch piece. This is this piece right here. So it's north of the Plank North and South Schools, extending from Hatch up to Jewelberry or Angel's Path, I think is the one that connects out.
Mark, from a funding perspective, I realize the budget obviously doesn't equal the amount of money you've laid out there. We do take in sidewalk funding from developers at times. Do we know what the balance of that is, and where does that money go?
Sure. So sidewalk in lieu is actually a revenue line within the general fund. So the money that's taken in every year in revenue just goes into the general fund. We also have two corresponding expense lines. The first is sidewalk maintenance, and the second is new sidewalks. And there are some remaining funds available, budgeted funds available in both of those lines. As for what we've taken in this year, because again, it's a revenue line in the general fund, so at the end of the year, it's not really put against expense, it's just revenue, so it just goes into the general fund. So far this year, we've budgeted $30,000. And we have received, as of May 31st, $12,200. So I think we're on track to meet that 30. I'm not anticipating that we'll exceed it. So we also have sidewalk funds in a special district, but that I think has some parameters.
So those are, if I may, just, so those are for district funds go to neighborhoods that have sidewalks within them. So they're put in by the developers. Those residents pay in each year. So that's a special fund to maintain those sidewalks repairs. We've kind of got three different buckets. So engineering handles the new sidewalk construction. We're in the middle of that. So not sure how much will be left. If we have any, we can look at encumbering that. We're still kind of in the midst of it right now, as well as same as the DPW handles the maintenance fund. So that's going back and repairing, replacing, older sidewalk sections that are, need of an upgrade.
In the sidewalk maintenance fund, we've spent, we budgeted $84,000. We've spent $48,500. We have available $35,500. In the new sidewalk line, we budgeted $50,000. We encumbered $1.5 million. We've spent $540,000 of that, but we have open POs totaling $965,000. So that leaves about $41,000 available.
Mark, have you heard from anybody that's a friend at the county or the state on any potential sidewalk grants or investments next year?
I've again inquired with the county. I don't have a number. They said they have possibly some small amount of money left. I know that was why the board allocated so much in the past. They had a 50% match. That was their ARPA fund kind of extra that was on for county roads. But I think most of that is accounted for. We took, full advantage of it. That's where we got the Jackson, the Plank, and the 5 Mile. That's why that kind of rose in priority, was leveraging the town funds, with the 50% match from the county.
Yeah.
I've not heard of anything from the state. We're always looking for safe routes to school funding. We're always looking for, any other grant funding that's out there for those. Obviously, those are been tougher to come by most recently, but obviously we'll continue to look.
I'm just going to add in that I just wanted to look up the Safe Routes to School grant funding that's offered through the TAP program from New York State DOT. Generally, the notice of funding is released in the fall, so we would need to look in October, November timeline is generally when those funding notices are released.
And when do you need I don't know, a priority decision by?
I mean, I don't need to pressure the board. It's just, obviously, the sooner we know, the sooner, we inform the affected residents, we can start survey, get into design. So, it just gives us more time to get in our design done through the fall, permitting through winter, and then be ready for, spring, summer construction next year. So it doesn't need to be tonight, give the board, some more time, but obviously the sooner the better. It gives us, time to, get our rest of our work done, easements obtained and whatnot going through into next year. So, okay. Thank you for the time, and thanks for the
thank you.
the further discussion.
No, it's good. A lot of good work here. The level of detail is helpful. Tough, but.
Yeah, and if there's more information the board wants,
Right.
can provide that, further information as needed.
Any other questions or discussion on that?
No.
Okay, so there is no old business, so we will move to the new business, which is the resolution 26T-121.
Resolution 26T-121, authorization to post temporary no parking signs. Do you want me to keep reading?
Okay, yes. In regard to resolution number 26T121, I'd like to read it into the record, and this is authorization to post temporary no parking signs. Whereas it is the Town of Penfield's responsibility to promote and maintain public safety on roads within the Town of Penfield. And whereas pursuant to the New York State Vehicle and Traffic Law, Section 1660, the Penfield Town Board is granted the authority to authorize the establishment of traffic control devices on town highways within the Town of Penfield. And whereas the Town of Penfield wishes to keep the neighborhoods around the town's Independence Day celebration, parade route, and festivities at Harris Wayland Park accessible to emergency vehicles. Now therefore be it resolved that the Town Board hereby authorizes and establishes that no parking will be established along both and/or one side of all and/or parts of the following streets for the duration of the town's Independence Day celebration, parade, and festivities at Harris Wayland Park. Baird Road, north of Penfield Road, Gebhardt Road, Peachtree Road, Hotchkiss Circle, Wheelock Road, Kenmont Drive, Henderson Drive, Avonmore Way, Hidden Meadow, Hillrise Drive, Lazy Trail, Valley Green Drive, Valley Green Circle, Maple Hill Farm Road, Maple Leaf Circle, Timber Glen Trail, Woodside Drive, Harmon Road, and Harris Wayland Park Road. And be it further resolved that the Town Board hereby authorizes and directs the Director of Public Works to post said temporary, quote, no parking signs along both and/or one side of said streets. Can I have a motion? Or I move it, right? Yeah. So I move as written and read.
Second.
Is there any discussion or questions? Okay.
Barry?
Aye.
Dean?
Aye.
Getz?
Aye.
Lang?
Aye.
Teglash?
Aye.
All aye.
All right. Our next work session meeting will be July 15th, 2026. And now I am making a motion to enter into executive session to discuss medical, financial, credit, or employment history of a particular person or corporation, or relating to an appointment, promotion, demotion, discipline, or removal.
I'll second it.
Wait, who made the motion?
I did.
Okay, thank you.
Barry?
Aye.
Dean?
Aye.
Getz?
Aye.
Lang?
Aye.
Teglash?
Aye.
All aye.
All right, and I will report the adjournment time to the clerk tomorrow to allow the staff to be able to go home.
Thank you.
All right.